Hey folks, Jack with River Cat Blues. I am in my workshop today. You're gonna have to excuse my mess. I am not good at organizations, as you can tell. I have stuff thrown everywhere, from the top to the bottom. I apologize for the mess, but anyway, I've got some fishing stuff laid out here, and I want to show you a few things, and then we're going to dive right into the Snell knot. This is a bench vise. We're going to be using this here in a little bit. I'll explain myself more on why I use this to tie Snell knots. But first, let's get started with some more things that I would like to show you. Now, these are some of the hooks that I like to use. This mustad right here is one of my favorites. It's a really good one. I like it a lot. I use all of these. These all will work. These all will work. And they work well. This one here is pretty decent. And here's another one of my favorites. I really like the Team Catfish double action. Works really well. The Ultra Points are good. Any of these are good. Gamakatsu. Eagle Claw. Eagle Claw is a good one. Any of these will work. But like I said, two of my favorites out of this group right here. This is one of them. That one's pretty good there too. And this is the other one I really like really well. Now here's some of the dragon weights that I use when I'm drifting, when I'm in heavy structure. That would be like stump fields, heavy brush, down timber, big rocks, that type of area. Anything that you are going to get hung up in quite a bit, I'll use these flexible sinkers here. The middle one, the rope one right here, I actually make that myself. They're easy to make. But anyway, this type of sinkers, they're flexible. You won't get hung up near as much with this. Now, a lot of the bigger rivers that I fish, where there's dams especially, they've got a big area of the river maybe dammed up. There's some big flats out in those areas. And I use this type of sinker where those flats are. There's usually not a whole lot of structure in there. There can be, but most of the areas that I fish in the flats doesn't have a lot of structure. So I'll just use this type of sinker. These are pencil sinkers here. They work quite well. But you can use anything, even bank sinkers, when you don't get hung up a whole lot. It doesn't really matter. As far as float rigs go, when I use float rigs, this is the type of stuff you're going to see in my videos. I use the Demon Dragons quite a bit. I'll usually pair these two up together because I'm using some bigger baits. And a lot of times this Demon Dragon by itself isn't enough to hold up those bigger baits. Every once in a while, I will throw a rattle on there. This just keeps your baits up off the bottom and you don't get hung up near as much. Now this here completes my float rigs. Of course, this here is a sinker slide. And this is just a standard snap that I use on my leader lines. And I'll show you exactly how I set that up. And then, of course, you got to have your swivel on your main line. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and tie a short leader. I usually use a longer leader than this, but for this purpose, we're just going to tie a shorter leader. Okay, the first thing I do, if you got a new peg float, a lot of times the hole does not go all the way through these. I'm going to try to see if you can kind of see. Hopefully I'll move it around a little bit. And then what I do is I'll just take a Phillips screwdriver about the same size, going to get it started. And then I'll just push it through till it comes out. And you can see that little piece that I brought out of there. And just pull it back out. It'll be a tight fit. Just pull it back out. And then you should, if I do this right, see through that. Okay, the next thing that you want to do, obviously, is put your hook on the leader line. Now, I just tied a quick granny knot here, just to, I don't use this to fish with, but I just wanted to tie it on here real quick. I always snell these. But after you get your hook on, then you're going to put your peg float on. And then you just want to slide it down, and usually about right there is where I put my peg float on the longer leader. But you can experiment with wherever you want to put it. But with this short leader, we're going to put it a little closer down here. And some people do run them close. And then I just push these super tight. I'll push them all the way in. And then if you want to run one of these, you can. I'll show you how to put it on real quick. I usually put it on right down against this, like this, because I'm running super heavy, super big baits. And this won't float some of the baits by itself. Plus, there's no rattle here. I mean, you can put a rattle on here if you want, but I always just run one of these. Now, if you want to run one of these Demon Dragons by itself, this is the way I put them on. I'm going to turn it like you can see. I just run that through that hole, or that eye right there. Then I run it back through this eye right here. Just like that. And then I run it back through this eye right here. And it's going to look like that. And then you can slide this down as close as you want. If you want it closer, you can put it closer. Okay, the last thing I do with my leader is I run a snap at the top of it. And I'll show you why I do that. A lot of people tie this straight to the swivel. And that's fine. That's perfect. But I run a snap, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. Now, when I tie my snaps on, a lot of people use different knots. As long as it works, it doesn't matter what you tie. But I use a polymer here. But a lot of people use polymer knots. They're very good knots. And I just kind of tighten the tag up a little bit here. And then I'll cut the tag off. I'll leave a little bit on there. Usually about like that is what mine looks like. And then we're going to pull this out. And this is kind of sort of a model of the finished product. This is way too short, but okay. When I get out on the water, I take pre-tied leader lines with me. I want everything made up before I get out there. A lot of people tie their stuff when they get out there on the water, and that's great. That's wonderful. I used to do that all the time. But as I got older, which I am old, I got arthritis in my hands and fingers. And I have trouble, especially when it's cold, trying to tie snells, anything. I just can't hardly make them work. So what I do is I tie everything down here in my warm workshop, and then I store them on this right here. Now you can use baggies, you can use pool noodles, there's all types of way to store your leader lines. This is just the way I do it. It seems to work for me. So what I'll do is I'll take the snap, I'll put it inside the hole, and then I'll put it through a slot. There's 4 slots cut all the way around these for your line to fit through. Then I just wrap the leader in the groove, and then I'll leave just a little bit of slack in it, and I'll go back through one of the grooves. So now it's like this. but I want to secure this hook. So I'll go ahead and go over the top of it, take my hook, put it into the foam, if I can get it here, and then just push it. Now it's inside the foam. It's not going to get you. It's ready to store. And these are pretty durable. Once it's in there, it's in there. This is my rod. This is the rig. Actually, wouldn't even have this on yet. This is how I go fishing. This is the way my rods look like when I pull them out of the vehicle. I've already got this tied on them. Of course, I've got it up tight like this. And this is, I put them in the rod holder. We're in the boat and we're taking off just like this. So when I get out to where I'm fishing, all I do is I get one of my leaders out, got my snap on it, undo it, run it through the swivel. You're good to go. I'm ready to start fishing because you got to put your sinker on. Put your drifting sinker on. Now I'm ready to start fishing. This is my rig right here. So if I'm done fishing, or if I break this off, get another one, unwrap it off of this, snap it on, put your big bait on, good to go. Going to show you how to do the Snell that I do. Now the reason why I use a bench vise is because of my issues with my hands. I have a lot of trouble hanging on to hooks, trying to tie lines out in the field. I just can't do it very well anymore and get good quality knots, I should say. So, I mean, if you're probably saying, why in the heck are you using a bench to do this? That's why. But it also helps if you're just trying to learn this process because it's like a third hand. The hook, you don't have to hold the hook at all. It's there. So let me show you how I do this real quick. Now I use a straw quite a bit. This is just a coffee straw that I've cut down. I don't know if I got, yeah. Came from Walmart. Just a straw that I cut down. A little coffee. So the first thing you do, of course, is run your line through the eye and give yourself plenty of tag out here to tie this with. And after you've got your tag measured out, I'll take this straw, put it right here on top of this, and hold it just like that. I hope you can see this. This is about as best I can do here. Then I take the tag and I'm going to go around this without trying to bump the camera. See, I'll have to go slow here. I'm going to bump the camera. I got it real close so you can see. You just start wrapping it around up the shank. Just take your time. I have to, but I mean, if you're fast at it, that's wonderful. I'm not. I used to be, and I used to didn't have to use a vise. But just make sure, dadgummit, I don't mean to bump the camera there. I got it so close. Just make sure that you get your wraps going up the shank. And I do about 9 to 10, somewhere in that area. And I just do these the night before, or a lot of times if I ain't doing anything, I'll just come to the workshop and tie up a bunch of these. I got them hanging all over the place. Okay. Then you take your tag, run it through the straw. I'm just going to go slow so everybody can see. Then I take this finger and I'll kind of put it right here and hold everything together. I'll grab the tag, see it's through the straw. And then I'll grab this and I'll grab this end. And as you pull this, the straw will kind of ease its way out anyway. You can see it coming out. And then when it gets down close to the end, it'll just pull out. And then I'll just take the straw off. Pull this down. You can turn this. If you want this tag, you can kind of turn this if you want it down the tag to the inside. And then just pull it tight. And now a lot of people will cut this tag off up here really, really close. But I like to give myself a little bit. It ain't going to hurt a thing. I'll give myself a little bit. So there is a little room. It should never pull through, but if it does pull any at all, little extra tag ain't going to hurt anything. Now, a lot of guys' argument on using a straw is that they think if your tag is underneath these loops, there's less chance for it getting cut if you put a lot of pressure on this main line. And it does put stress on this. So, and I'll show you that on the other knot I'm getting ready to tie real quick, because the tag will come over the top of these and your pressure is coming down on your wraps. And if anything happens to one of these wraps, you can just, I'll just put it on here and I'll just push. The whole thing will come undone. And your big fish just got off. But I have never had that happen. Never. I'm not saying it won't. But I have never had an issue with a tag going over the top of those wraps. I'm just going to tie a traditional Snell knot, what I call a traditional Snell knot anyway, without the straw, and my tag is going to come over the top of the loops. So the first thing I do, and you don't have to use a vise, it just helps me out. I tie everything here. I just can't work my hands like I used to. But anyway, run it through the eye, through the front of the eye, just like you do any other type of Snell knot. And then give yourself plenty of room to work, plenty of tag, and I'm going to make a loop. And I'm going to hold it with my left hand. I'm just going to grab that loop and I'm going to put it down here. Then take your tag in and start wrapping, and I'm going to go slow so everybody can see. I can't go fast anyway, so I guess it don't matter. And then I usually do 9 or 10 of these. Go up the shank. And there is a lot of videos out there on YouTube, excuse me, that shows this exact process with different types of Snell knots. There's a lot of different types of Snell knots out there. And they all seem to work fine. I just like this one because I've tied it forever. But the straw one, I really like too. And it does make a little sense to me. But like I said, I've never had an issue with this. Now I take this finger right here. Don't mean to be flipping anybody off, but take this finger, this middle finger, and I'll just put it on top of the loops. And then I'll pass this through my end loop, like so. And then I'll just kind of hold everything and grab this end and pull it, and then pull everything together. And then this will slide right up the shank. And just tighten it up. And then, like I said, I always leave a little extra tag. Ain't gonna hurt a thing. A lot of people cut it close, but I don't know. Little insurance here. Let's just cut it and leave a little insurance on there. And there's the Snell. Now the loop comes over the top, or your tag line comes over the top of the loops. But I have never had an issue with this ever. Not saying there won't be one of these days, and I do use the straw. Last thing I want to show you here real quick is I put my leader lines right here on these 2 screws. You can see them hanging right here. And I'll put 10 or 12 of them on this. on each side. I may have non-peg floats here, and then peg floats or demon dragons on these. Different lengths, depends on what you're doing. I'll have different lengths up here. But I've got everything ready. I'll grab these, I'll wrap them real quick, throw them in the tackle box, and I'm gone. I also forgot probably one of the most important things you really need when you go out there fishing. Yep. This stuff right here, amazing. You catch a big fish, take a drink of this, you feel amazing. You lose a big fish, take a drink of this, you still feel amazing. Great stuff, people.